Hi, and welcome to another SoFi tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to import PMF results and how to look at them. You can either do this in an experiment where you ran PMF before, or you can start with a fresh experiment. If you have a new experiment like I have here, you first have to define the folder path to the ME2 solver. If you have an old experiment, this path will already be defined from running PMF. Next, you want to select the HDF file that you want to import. For this, click on this button, and in the popped window, you will see a list of all HDF files that are stored in the ME2 result folder. You can select the HDF file or files that you want to look at by simply clicking on them. If you want to select multiple files, you can use Ctrl or Shift to select several files. If you select multiple files, just make sure that the PMF input is the same for all the files. However, the blacklisting may be different. Once you selected the files you wish to look at, you have to close the window by clicking on the button again. Next, you want to import the chosen HDF files into Igor, and for this we click on the next button here. Depending on the file size of your results, this might take a while. Next, we want to select the specific PMF runs from the HDF files, and for this we open the blue panel by clicking here on this blue button. So today I'm going to show you how to manually select a few PMF runs from an HDF file. If you have an HDF file that contains thousands of runs, a manual inspection will not be possible, so one would have to switch here to an automated selection of the PMF runs, and this we will cover in a separate tutorial. So we're going back to manual selection, and the first thing we do is that we select the HDF file. Here in this drop-down menu, you see a list of all the HDF files that you just imported before. Once you select an HDF file, you can see that the graphs down here do update immediately. The default graph here shows the Q/Q expectation value for each PMF run in the HDF file. By default, the x-axis shows the iterations, but you can change the x-axis type here with this drop-down menu. They can also display the number of factors, or if you used any constraints or other advanced techniques, that it also shows those values. So for example, if I select number of factors, you see now that the first 5 PMF runs contain a 4-factor solution, while the other 5 PMF runs contain a 5-factor solution. If you forget the PMF settings, you can always check the log file here. The log file lists the main settings. So on top you have the running settings, so in this case 10 runs with 4 to 5 factors. You have the general settings, and further down you also have information on constraints and other advanced tools. If you have one run that does not show any Q/Q expectation value, you can check the log file to see whether it actually converged or not. The log file is the same information that is also printed in your history, and you can check here whether conversions was achieved or not. Besides the Q/Q expectation values for each PMF run, you also have here the options to see the absolute values, so the total mass and how much mass each of the factors make up, the relative values, as well as the unexplained and explained variation for each PMF run. The unexplained variation is separated into a real and noisy part, and this is done based on the signal to noise ratio. So now we have to select the PMF runs that should be analyzed in more detail. For this, we go back to the Q/Q expectation plot, and we simply select those runs by dragging a marquee around them. Click right, go to SoFi marquee, select options, and then we can select either the PMF runs that the marquee is dragged around, or we can select all the PMF runs from that HDF file. Same of course goes for the unselecting process. So if we select the current, you see that those PMF runs are now highlighted in blue. Later on, SoFi will import all the runs that are highlighted in blue into the red Analyze panel, where you can look at them in more detail. This process of selecting HDF files is additive, so you can do it as many times as you want. And this process is not just additive, it can also be done across HDF files. So if you have several HDF files, you can also select them in the different HDF files. Once you have highlighted all the PMF runs you want to inspect, you close the blue panel and you can click here on the red panel, and now SoFi is importing your PMF runs into the red panel. This will now take a minute or two, depending on how many PMF runs you selected and on how much data is stored in each PMF run. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial on how to import PMF runs in SoFi. In the next tutorial, we will guide you through how to analyze your chosen PMF solutions. If you like this video and don't want to miss any other tutorials, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching today, and we hope to see you soon for another tutorial.